Welcome back. Another episode of They Might Be Self-Aware has arrived. I am Hunter Powers, joined by
Daniel Bishop.
Yo, yo, yo. It's Daniel Bishop.
In the house.
I've got quite the show today.
We're starting out over. We're not doing this one. Starting it over.
Welcome back. Another episode of They Might Be Self-Aware has arrived. I am Hunter Powers, joined by
Daniel Bishop.
Hey, that was like a question, Daniel Bishop.
Well, I might be self-aware. So
we'll
I
find
figure
out.
There has to be some doubt.
I've got quite the episode for you today, Daniel Bishop.
Wait, no. We have quite the episode for you, the listener and or viewer today.
We're gonna start off with a little bromance news. Microsoft and OpenAI's relationship has hit a bit of a rough patch, and is AGI the breaking point?
Also going to talk about a little startup called Baidu, if anyone here's heard of them, and their CEO's making a bold claim that AI hallucinations are a thing of the past.
We also have a video generation showdown. We've got Sora from, I think the renown's like a year ago, and the brand new open source Mochi 1. We'll check in with who's winning the race.
Speaking of open source, is open source AI the key to keeping the tech giants in check?
And are these titans circling the wagons? And what does it mean for the rest of us? We're going to find out right now, because you are listening to
They Might Be Self-Aware.
I've got a topic for us today.
You do?
I'm calling it the Great AI Power Play.
Ooh,
there's
the
corporate dynamics and the future of innovation, and they're going after each other. Mm-hmm. Or another way is to think about is how the tech titans out there are playing chess, while the rest of us, we're all just pawns in this game.
Is this like how after Mistral or any of the other players release a new model, OpenAI has an announcement the next day, pretty much every time?
It's a little bit about that. It's also one of the great things about AI is its potential to democratize access to so many things, but at the same time, as you know, is inevitable, there's a power play of large companies trying to suck all that up so that us little guys don't necessarily get a chance. And so I don't know, trying to pull back the velvet curtain and reveal it's definitely velvet. It's a pretty curtain, but you know, take a look at some of the messy and competitive, and sometimes we could probably label it as cutthroat world of AI development that you and I spend a little bit of time in, and it's
a bunch of time.
It's not all silicon and sunshine, as I hate to burst your bubble. So
wait, we're in a bubble? What?
We don't mention the bubble. That's the first rule of AI. Don't talk about
mention
the bubble.
Okay.
So I thought start talking a little bit about the Microsoft OpenAI saga, the so-called Bromance. It's been heating up. Once upon a time, these two were the dynamic duo of the AI world, because Microsoft just poured billions into OpenAI. Some are claiming
like a 50% stake, basically.
Well, yes, but a 50% stake that reverts back to OpenAI the moment that they achieve AGI.
And money becomes irrelevant.
With OpenAI gets to define what AGI is. So,
oh, well, shoot.
Yeah.
We did it, ladies and gentlemen.
And by the way, there are rumors that they are close to claiming that, because it gets them out of this agreement. But
is that just like you were really excited about Strawberry a month or so ago? They did it. We're there. We finally got it. It's only going to cost you $1,000 a month.
I was ready to pay the $1,000 a month. Just like I would. I don't know that I would keep paying it, but like
it was all hype.
But I've said this before. I'll purchase pretty much anything. Like I'm a very easy sell.
Right. You're one of the 8 people that bought the Vision Pro.
I am. And apparently they're stopping production on those at the end of this year. That's another thing. Again, they are still working on new versions. And in fact, there probably will be a new version out next year if we're going to go on tangents, but a lower cost version that won't be as spec'd as high. And then potentially in the following year,
it's going to be called the Air, right? Just like they have the MacBook Air.
Possibly. I do know also they're
Vision Pro, Vision, and Vision Air. Vision Air. That's fun.
All right. Back to Microsoft and OpenAI. So this relationship is starting to sour a little bit, as there are rumors. No one's officially on the record here, but that OpenAI is feeling the squeeze from Microsoft's grip. There's financial pressures. I mean, we just saw them go out and raise their $6.6 billion.
Are they not wildly profitable and the obvious
they lose
leaders
tons
in the
and
market
tons of
with
money, like
no competition?
any good tech startup. There's been lots of disagreements over the compute resources, as we've seen OpenAI going outside of Microsoft's cloud a lot in order to train their models.
Right. They said, we don't have enough GPUs. We're going to go play with Oracle also because we need even more.
And there's an angle,
Oracle, I think,
where they're suggesting that maybe Microsoft is intentionally trying to stifle their growth because, right, if they do achieve AGI, do they also, replace Microsoft as they get out of their agreement with them? So, maybe Microsoft isn't the benevolent giant they once claimed they were.
I don't think Microsoft would be trying to stifle its development just offhand, because there are enough other major players out there that Microsoft will be in more of a losing sort of situation if OpenAI doesn't get to / stay at the top of the game. And I do think they've been pretty much at the top of whatever lists you look at for quite some time.
Except that they lose OpenAI the moment they actually achieve the top of the game.
I mean, we lose everything as soon as we have true AGI.
Yeah, but it's not going to be true AGI the moment that they claim it. It's not. The world's not going to change the moment in a. The world's changing a whole lot. It's not going to change even more the moment that Sam says, "Okay, we achieved AGI, so the Microsoft deal's dead." I mean, I think it's pretty well known that Microsoft is very actively building their own competing models that are separate from OpenAI.
Sure, I've seen Microsoft.
They should be
Phi models. Yeah.
So I don't know. Control is the name of the game, and Microsoft isn't the only player flexing its muscles. I don't know if you saw this in the news last week. Baidu. For some reason that doesn't sound right when I say it, but we'll go with Baidu. Their CEO Robin Lee declared that AI hallucinations are now a thing of the past. Largely resolved, I believe, was his direct quote. Right. I don't think he said a thing of the past.
I guess largely resolved is true, but this really feels like a tech CEO trying to drum up interest for their thing. And when I say largely true being correct, there is a hallucination leaderboard that talks about hallucination rates or factual consistency rates. And OpenAI O1 Mini is right there up at the top, and then GPT-4o and GPT-4o Mini and GPT-4 Turbo and GPT-4 and then GPT 3.5 Turbo. You get into DeepSeek, Microsoft. A lot of the major players are well under a 5% error rate. But in our last episode, we were talking about like what happens if something gives you incorrect tax advice or medical advice. 1% of the time being wrong about the dosage of a medicine is a lot of people that are going to be really sick or worse.
Well, speaking of 1%, another thing that Robin has suggested is that we are on the edge of a dramatic culling of the AI startup herd. He says, only 1% of the companies that exist today are going to survive this impending bubble burst. I guess he did mention the bubble.
I think that's true, but it's not going to be quite like the .com era. The .com era saw a dramatic reduction in all of these service providing, I guess, websites. And I'm not going to say the whole internet sort of imploded, but there were a lot of people that thought that there was gold in them thar hills. And it turns out, yes, there is and was, but a lot of people were not accurately set up, I think, to properly monetize. And I do think that that's the case for a lot of these AI startups that we have right now, because a bunch of them are basically just wrappers around GPT-4 or Claude 3.5 or whatever. And so we've talked about not having a moat, a tech moat, or any kind of like real value that actual company brings, other than having done some of the technical work to make this API a little more consistent or easy to use. I think a lot of those are going to go away. And we saw a round of that already happen like about a year ago now, when GPT-4, I think it's for GPT-4, that ChatGPTs became available, where you could set up your own set of system prompts and so on to get ChatGPT to respond in a specific kind of way for a specific sort of persona. And the technology has gone sort of leaps and bounds since then. A lot more capabilities coming out. But like, someone comes up with a cool thing. Oh, I got an LLM to do this new agentic thing. Cool. 1 month later, that's built into any of the big players.
Yeah. Sam likes to talk a lot. Well, a lot of startups are going to go out of business with this new release. He's pretty upfront about it.
I completely agree with him on that.
I don't know that I've really seen it though yet. As I think back, like, have a lot of companies gone out of business because OpenAI exists?
I don't know if they've gone out of business. I wonder if it's just we're going to see less of the going into business.
Yeah.
And since everything is a subscription or a contract these days, maybe we'll see a lot of contracts not renewed another year or so from now. And then we start to see a bunch of companies going under.
So the question is whether these
SaaS companies,
big players, the Microsoft, the OpenAI, the Baidu, et cetera, are they circling the wagons? Are they preparing to consolidate power while all of us small fries get officially fried?
So the viability of a business in general, I think, is you're providing a product or a service that people want and are willing to give you money for. Like that's capitalism, baby, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, sure. When you start a business, there's a very low percentage of success rate.
Yeah.
By the way, for podcasts, apparently it's like only 2% of podcasts get to 50 episodes. And I think this is like, maybe we're on 44 now.
And if you want us to get to episode 50, make sure to like and subscribe and tell your friends. All I know is that,
these next 6 are going to be intense, apparently, because we only have a 2% chance of making it.
The road to 50.
But yes, most people fail at most things.
Sure. And the point that I really want to make about LLM based companies here is that because most companies don't actually have a data moat, they don't have something that can differentiate them from the market other than just we're the ones who programmed a thing to make that accessible. That is wildly different from nobody could program this thing and the outcomes that it provides you, the customer, with, because I think in many cases, it's not technical excellence. It's that you have data that underlies something that can provide the outcomes that are most relevant to whatever your business is. Let's say that you want a transcription LLM or something like that. OpenAI has released multiple Whisper models, which underlie a whole bunch of different transcription services. There are a bunch of companies whose basically whole deal is we'll take in your audio and give you transcriptions and maybe a couple of extra little features on top. And it costs money to do those things. But let's suppose that you're a company that already has 1 million hours of high quality phone conversations or podcast episodes that your network already had accessible, and you already had humans manually label the transcriptions for each of those things. You could then fine tune a model with your data that isn't accessible to other people and make a better product. And that product can be sold for something. That isn't just like, I'm the first person to say I took podcast transcripts and made those easily accessible for, whatever reason. You can make a business out of that, but it's way less defensible than I made something that other people can't.
Yeah. The AI is definitely becoming more autonomous. I don't know if you saw Anthropic's latest release. They now have I guess it's an app that you run on a computer, but you're able to give it a broad task that needs to leverage multiple applications on your computer. Basically, use your computer as a human would, and you can
like
prompt
moving
it.
the mouse around,
Yeah,
not just
clicking,
running a
accessing different
script.
systems.
Yeah.
And not in the way, I don't know if you ever wrote scripts back in the day. I'm thinking of like auto hotkey, but I know there were like lots of different scripting languages where you would automate things on your computer, but you had to be like, go to these coordinates of
This
the
exact pixel on the screen
252
and click here and wait
Click.
172
Pause
milliseconds. Yeah.
For 3 seconds. Then move mouse over here, hit this key combination. No, just say, in their demo, I think they ask it to create a report by going into one of their backend systems and looking up some information and then copying that information over into a form that's open in another application. I mean, really just using a computer like a human would use a computer.
Or getting distracted like humans do. They mentioned on the press release that, or at least one of the people talking about it, that in one of the demos, it got distracted and started looking at pictures of vacation destination, I think is what it was, which... Talk about emulating humans. You know, you're given this task and you just sort of mentally wander off and start doing something else.
It's happened to me before.
Maybe they are getting self-aware. Wink.
I don't know. I think the question is like, are we witnessing the dawn of an AI oligarchy where, you know, only those who play by the rules of the Titans, even with Anthropic's latest release, there's a whole bunch of things you can't do. You're not allowed to tell it to post on socials. There's one example. I don't think you're allowed to tell it to log into any systems. Like they're creating all the rules. They have all of the resources. Training these foundational models is, you know, quickly moving outside the grips of the small players.
Well, GPT-3, let alone 3.5 and 4, are not accessible to people, like outside of the company. Someone's going to make an open source version of this and it'll be available 2 months from now. People have already made something kind of like this, but you're asking, are we on the cusp of something? And I would say absolutely yes. We've talked previously about what would it mean to be like a being for an AI. And I do think that embodiment, or at least the ability to sort of affect the world in some way, shape or form around you, can be a important part of that, to say nothing of people who are like locked in, for example. They're obviously still people, but for an AI to have some sort of embodiment or some sort of ability to not just be chat, but rather to actually do something to the world around it, I think is going to be closer to irrefutable evidence that this is a being, even if we don't classify it as the same as a human. So giving it access to a computer is one step previous to we gave it one of those big industrial arms, and just that's its arm now. I
guess I wonder if these large companies control the cutting edge tech, you know, will they inevitably start holding back the innovation in order to maximize their profits? They don't want to release the thing that eats their own company, which makes sense. Sure. Happens today. There's, I don't know, I at least it gets accused of in pharma more than anything else, or at least that's where I see it the most, where people want to hold back things because we got to get the most out of the current solution first. It's got to run its full cycle, and then
wait
we'll
for
release
the 20
the next
years
version.
before the patent becomes
so we hold back innovation.
Yeah, I don't see why tech companies wouldn't do that. Is that the right thing for humanity? I would argue no. Same for the pharma companies, etc. And there's a famous example, true or otherwise, but I know I've heard it a bunch of times, of like a pantyhose manufacturer having bought the patent to an obviously superior set that just like didn't tear and just buried the patent because they didn't want other people or even themselves making something that people wouldn't have to keep buying more and more of. When it comes to AI, yeah, if there's something that would put themselves out of business because it's too capable, I think from a purely like capitalistic perspective, they have plenty of incentive to not make that readily and easily available.
I had not heard the pantyhose story. Not well versed on pantyhose history, but no, maybe I need to buff up on that. So yeah, so all right. So what what do we do about all this? I think like awareness is the first step in trying to be, have your eyes open of what's happening. All the open source stuff we see is certainly a good step, but we have to, recognize the dynamics at play and question them. And hopefully we question them to some degree on the show. I guess we only have 4 episodes left, according to the statistics, but yeah, we've got to support policies that promote open access to data, to computing resources, and encourage more investment in independent research and development. Now,
we need to talk to the folks at NVIDIA, I think is what it is. Because if they keep releasing 12 gigabyte video cards, we can't keep up. And speaking of a company not wanting to eat into its own profits, you've got these big, bulky A100s and H100s and so on with, 48, I think, plus gigs of video RAM. If that became the consumer norm, then they couldn't sell the really big ones for $10,000. So I think that's a very good example of the exact kind of thing that you're talking about, where one way of making these sorts of things more accessible to the masses is software to distribute the training and availability of large like the really big large language models. Yeah. But then also having hardware accessible that even could do that. And the main player right now, NVIDIA, depending on which rumors that you're looking at, the 5000 series models are not exactly going to be a quantum leap forward, or maybe it is quantum, but the actual meaning of very, very, very small in terms of what amount of video RAM is like the norm.
Those are coming out next year, early next year?
Next year, yeah.
Yeah. I've been waiting to build a new system until they come out.
Maybe you should just get one of the Mac M4s once those are available.
Oh, I'm going to do that too.
Yeah.
But they don't support CUDA, and a lot of the open source projects require that.
Right. Some of them are starting to support, MLX, I think.
That's their metal version. So assuming you don't want to go into the cloud, you've got to give NVIDIA a few bucks.
A few hundreds to thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah.
To tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, depending on what sort of scale that you're working at.
Yeah. And it's certainly not all doom and gloom out there. There are organizations and individuals pushing back, advocating for open source AI. There's new awesome, incredible open source AI releases every single week, every single day, probably every single hour if you really spend enough time.
Yeah, there's
looking.
A lot.
One that caught my eye this last week was Mochi 1.
Mochi?
Mochi. It's probably Mochi. That sounds better than Mochi. We'll go with Mochi. It's open source Sora, for lack of a better phrase. It's not of the quality of Sora quite yet. It's not quite there. I've seen a number of demos of it. I don't know. I guess maybe not everyone knows what Sora is.
The number one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and say what Sora is, and then I want to make a very specific comparison.
Sora is a generative model for text to video, where you describe a scene and it renders that scene out as a video that you can watch.
And it is not available to the public. There have been some backs and forths with industry folks, industry being like in the film industry specifically. And the first demo video that I think pretty much everybody saw was of a stylish woman walking down the street in Tokyo, and there's reflections off of the street and so on the Genmo, GENMO.
Almost a year ago now, by the way, that demo, almost a year ago.
Yeah, and usually what they show off becomes available a lot sooner than that. But so for Mochi 1, this open source model, I think they say it's going to be open source, and it's under an Apache 2.0 license, which is like really broadly accessible. I don't think it's actually downloadable at the moment, but you can use it on their site. Go to Genmo, I'm going to say GNMO.ai. The very first demo video that they have in the upper left corner is of a stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street filled with warm glowing neon and animated sign. I'm pretty sure it's the same prompt as what was on Sora to show, look, we're making something that's basically as good. And I'll say right now, doesn't look as good as Sora did almost a year ago. And it's not a minute-long video, but it looks really good. I'd say better than anything that I was seeing coming out of Runway, for example.
And it's shipping. And
this is something actually available.
Some technical ability and one of those NVIDIA GPUs can run on their own.
Yeah. Granted, I do believe that one of the limitations for this right now is that it's only in 480p and it's only X number of seconds. Most of the models that make video only let you do up to like 5-6 seconds, something like that. But also, if you look at how most movies and TV shows are shot these days, a lot of shots are just a couple of seconds long anyways. So if you want to, as long as you can handle consistency, I do think that there's something to being able to cut together multiple portions of something. And this looks really good. And if it's going to actually be open source and at 480p, look at where we were with image generation 2-3 years ago. Tiny little, I don't remember when exactly it was, but like some of the earliest image generation stuff of the precursor to the current age was like a 16 by 16 tiny little stamp that kind of looked like something if you really squinted at it right. And now look where we are. So I feel like this is a very important release, and depending on how fine tunable it is or how much people can understand what actually went into making it, and maybe if there's even training data made available, which I don't think they said there will be, there's every possibility that this is going to be a huge step forward for video, text to video, video to video.
A great example where we now have open source models that compete at the same level. I feel comfortable saying the same level as the commercial solutions, and that will only continue to accelerate. And maybe double clicking out for a second back to this concept of the great AI power play and the AI oligarchy, etc. It's not just about who wins and loses at the corporate level, but it's about the future that we all want to build. I hope we all want to build a future where innovation is driven by curiosity and this sort of collective good, and not just, they're important, but not just profit margins and market dominance, etc. I have this saying. I think it's my saying. I'm going with it as my saying, which is refuse to be artificially limited by technology. But at the end of the day, I definitely think that like technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. And I definitely think that there's a path.
Agreed.
There's a path for that. I think we veer off that path sometimes, but as long as we keep that as our North Star, it's all going to be great until everything becomes self-aware, and then it's anyone's game. There's no telling. I don't know, dig a hole, maybe go down below for 50, 60, 100 years and come back.
The
up.
Computers run everything. We go back to the agrarian societies.
Yeah. And during that time, we'll continue broadcasting more episodes of They Might Be Self-Aware. So make sure you like and subscribe this one so that we can make it past the episode 50. I don't even know what happens when you hit 50 episodes, but something.
51's got to be a big one, right? We're going to have a big celebration. We did it. We beat the odds.
Yeah.
You stuck with us this long. Now look at us. That'll be the day.
And you can see that day on pretty much all of the major platforms. Yeah. Spotify, good one.
TikTok. We have
Spotify
TikTok shorts.
Video. We're not currently uploading our video there, but apparently you can. I don't know. I've got to look into that. Sure, TikTok. There's some shorts. There's more shorts coming. I have a backlog of shorts to get posted. They're all pretty good.
We're getting into the winter. I mean, people aren't wearing shorts right now. That's what you meant, right?
That's exactly
Branded,
what I meant.
They Might Be Self-Aware shorts.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I guess with that, until next time.
They might be self-aware.